Flosstube. It is Monday the 13th of May, and I know the last time I recorded was the 20th of March, so it has been a little while again. I would like to get on a better video rotation than that, but just as it happens, life happens, and not much stitching happened there for the next month or so after I recorded. I know I mentioned in that video that February had been basically a drought of stitching, because it was a year since we lost my sister, and then as it happened, her birthday was on the 15th of April and she would have been 19. So not much stitching got done in April either. I'm just getting along with it as I can, and it just happens that in those times I don't get much stitching done, I don't get much of anything done. But that's just how it goes. But I will show something that I did start that day and have now finished. But also over that time, because I wasn't getting much stitching done, I did kind of fall off the bandwagon of School of Magical Stitches and Literacy homework. I stayed as part of the group, but there was just a couple of weeks. I don't think it was a full month, but it was definitely probably 3 to 4 weeks that I had to not stress myself out about it and just say I will pick it back up when I can. And I'm grateful to see that there's others in the group that do that, and that was fine. But I was able to start again at the start of this month. We started the 4th book. I can't even remember now. Yes, year 4. So the 4th book of Harry Potter, and new challenges for the new book. And I was able to jump back in and really get my stitching bug started again with these challenges, so that's been great. There's only one whip, one current whip at the moment that I can show, and I haven't actually touched it almost since I talked to you last. I've maybe put in another 100 stitches, I'm not sure, but I hadn't touched it for a long time. And it was only just after that last video that I stitched on it. That is Totoro from an Etsy seller, a Russian Etsy seller. I'm stitching this for a friend's girl, and it's not my favourite stitch. As I mentioned last time, there is a lot of half stitches in this piece with the background, and I do not struggle with it, but I guess struggle for motivation with it. But it will be coming up, it will be getting seen to a lot in the next week or two. I know there's some challenges coming up. I think in School of Magical Stitches I will be putting 350 stitches into it in this next week for the homework, where I have to stitch 350 pieces into 2 different whips, and this is the first one, so it will see a little work done there. And that will also work into some challenges I'm doing in some other groups on Facebook, which is great. It'll still be the same stitches, but it'll be added into a few different challenges. So I know that doesn't look like much, and that's probably the whip that I put the least, the whip that I worked on that I put least amount of stitches into. But I also finished a page on my secret stitch, and I know I've had a lot of new subscribers since my last video, so I'll just explain again. I am doing a piece, it's 99 pages, so it is huge. It is I'm doing it 1/1 on 32 count, just to make it a little bit more compact, but if I do remember rightly, it's still 16 inches by 16 inches stitched area when it's finished, so it's still quite big. I would hate to do it any bigger than that and hope to frame it, especially when I have to post it when it's framed. But I started it almost 2 years ago. I'm not exactly sure, I would have to check. But I had, when I last videoed, I had 14 pages finished and 15 and 16 were started. Well, I've finished page 15 and I would have finished page 16 as well, but I ran out of a colour, or rather one of my bobbins just decided to grow legs and walk. So I'm not sure what it did, where it's gone. I still haven't found it, but I did do another probably 400 stitches onto that page, and once I either find that bobbin or reorder that colour, that page will be finished. There's about 150 stitches left on that page, so I left it and I have gone on to page 17 and I've done about 1,200 stitches or thereabouts on that page. I'm doing it's a bit of a mix between cross country and parking. I'm trying to work in the columns, but my cross country loving self will go over into the next column if there's just a couple of stitches of that colour. So it's a bit all over the place. But I do love parking in that piece as well. It just makes it a little easier. It is very confetti heavy in a lot of areas. And even in parts, on page 16, there's it started a different photo of the collage, and it looks like it should just be grey, but of course we know that when it's a cross stitch piece, it's not just one colour of grey. There's about 5 or 6 different colours, varying from B5 200, 5200 to light blue. So that's even, it's not as confetti heavy, but it's still a lot of work, and especially when I'm working on white fabric, it takes a lot of concentration. So I guess I've done a fair bit on it, and it probably has been the piece that I've worked on most solidly, just because it is so huge and I'm wanting to get it done sometime in the next couple of years would be great, as it is a gift and I'd love to get it done and gifted, but 99 pages is going to take a while. So other than that, I have had 3 finishes. As I mentioned, I did start a piece on my sister's birthday, and those that have been with me for a while will know that I'm going to stitch pieces to put basically a memorial wall for her somewhere in my house, whether it's in this house or whether it's up. I don't know if I ever move. I'll have to figure that out. But this is my third finish for that wall. And I kind of have an idea of what I will do, but I had her quote, which I showed the finish of in the last video, and I'll put a picture up of it now, just for those that have joined us since then. And also Lizzie Kate's Sisters Best Friends, or Sisters Are Best Friends. And so this is my third one, because she was, as my other siblings will attest to, basically addicted to hot chocolate. So I saw this piece on Kincavel Crosses. It's a freebie from them, and I thought, I've known for ages that I wanted to do this one for her, so I started it on her birthday, and there was a couple of weeks where I was stitching very sporadically, but this was the only thing I stitched on until it was done, which is very, very different for me, but it was just a way of still getting some stitching done and working on something that I wanted to work on. So I was glad to see it finished. And then while I've been working on my larger pieces, especially the secret stitch, I have wanted a break every now and again from it and some of my other pieces, and so I thought I'd look up some other, I had some spare fabric, and that's a very rare thing for me. I don't have a stash of fabric, but I'd bought a large piece, I think it was 25-inch square, for a new start, and I'd kitted up this new start with this fabric and all the thread, and when they arrived I actually couldn't find that pattern, as we know sometimes happens, and I'd left it for a couple of weeks and still couldn't find the pattern, and that's when I decided I wanted to start that piece, that hot chocolate piece for my sister. And so I thought, oh well, I'll just cut that piece up, a piece of fabric up, and do a couple of smalls on it and reorder the fabric for my new start, which I have done, and it will be with me probably towards the end of the month. But after I finished the hot chocolate piece, I did grab another quarter of that fabric and just stitched this one up. Now these are ones I found online. They are freebies from a designer that I'd never heard of before, the Stitcher Hood, and I'm not sure whether that's the designer or whether it's just a line of cross-stitching pieces, because I've never heard of them before, but I thought these were quite cute. So there's summer, and then I did go on and do autumn as well. So 2 quick finishes, some thread pieces there. 2 quick finishes, which were great. I think each one took me 3 days, and of course that wasn't stitching all day or anything. A couple of days I'd only get about 10 stitches in, but 3 days all up each they took me, and just gave me a bit of a break. So that was good, and I think that's all I've got to show this time. So as I mentioned, I am back on track with School of Magical Stitches homework. I had got in with my secret stitch. I showed just the little section that I was working on, and I'm not showing my progress online with that, or the whole piece, just because they are personal photos and I do want it to be a surprise, and I don't know that they'd give me permission to show their personal photos, even though they are photos that I'm able to use personally. I don't know that they'd want them out there, especially in a collage like that. So I'm keeping that quiet. But I just show the little snippet of where I was working, and I would do that amount of stitches. So I worked on that with the homework that we were doing with the Quidditch Cup. And as we know, as those that are in that group or were in that group, I know a few have left in the last couple of weeks. There was the two games basically, and each game went for 3 days, and I did get around 1,000 stitches in on that piece for each of the games, which was great. And then we just had one lot of homework where we stitched 100 stitches on whatever we liked. So I got that done as well. And now this week, as I mentioned, I will be doing 350 stitches on Totoro, and also 350 stitches on my secret stitch, on one part of my secret stitch. So I look forward to that this week. I have tried to put in a challenge for myself to get about 300 stitches done a day on my secret stitch. Of course, not every day I can do that. Since I started that, if I was up to par on that one, if I was keeping up with it, I would have put in about 2,100 stitches, but I'm only about 1,200 stitches into that. So yeah, it's kind of a far out goal, but it has shown me kind of what I would need to do per day to get 2 pages done a month, which I guess is a lofty goal because I usually only get 1 page done a month, which is still a huge thing, especially when you're working on other pieces as well. But it's kind of what I've been able to do, but I would like to push it that little bit more just to be able to get it done in a time reasonable. But other than that, I will say happy Mania to all those ones who are doing Mania. I've never actually joined, possibly because when I do get the money to buy and kit something up, I want to get it started then and there, because it is not really few and far between. But if it is a bigger piece, I only get to kit something like that up every couple of months, so I like to get in and get it done. So I don't really have the funds to kit a whole heap of things up and leave it until May. I don't have I guess that ability to wait all year as I slowly kit things up and leave them until 1 month of the year. But I'm loving watching everyone's progress with their mania plans and loving seeing all the new to me things that everybody's working on. So that's been great. And I don't know when I'll be back. This year's been very sporadic, every couple of months. As usual, as everybody says, I would like to get on a better rotation of doing videos more regularly, but I guess it is just a wait and see, and depends on how much stitching I do get done in a month. So I will say thank you very much for watching and subscribing, and welcome to all those ones that have joined me since I last did a video, and I will talk to you next time. Happy stitching.